Hey guys, Eddie back with Couch Talk. Welcome back to the show. As always, if it's your first time here, please hit like, please hit subscribe below. It's the only way I'm going to break out into this industry, but if you follow me, I promise I will do the work. I will make this content worth your attention. Speaking of, today I'm about to get in more trouble. We're going to talk about another controversial topic. We're going to talk about marriage. We're going to talk about gay marriage. We're going to talk about marriage in a historical context and marriage as it is today and how it should be. Marriage is kind of intriguing in the historical sense. It's kind of got two different pillars, two different threads that you can follow through time. One of them is the secular thread, and that is, it's been around for as long as, humans have found mates and have clumped into families. And, as it's woven its way through the Greco-Roman times. In the Greco-Roman times, it was described kind of like as a transfer of almost property. So the Kyrios, lord or controller, would transfer, usually this was a woman's father, will transfer the woman to another man for procreation. And as it continued on through the years, in the medieval times, it often became kind of like a way to ally families, sometimes even whole houses, sometimes even states and nations, right? So, I'm sure we've all seen a movie like Braveheart, for example, where the idea is, king of one nation, takes a wife from another nation, a princess, and therein kind of allies the two nations together, hopefully for future mutual advantage. But it largely had nothing to do with the two people involved. It often was just a kind of more to do with property, more to do with alliances. It was kind of an interesting secular history. Now, on the religious side, it's got a lot of ties to old Hebrew Jewish culture, but then up through the Christian narrative, the reference I most often see is the St. Paul to the Ephesians in Ephesians 5. And that is the classic, he kind of describes husband to wife as analogous to Christ to the church. And then continues to describe the roles of a husband, the roles of a wife. Very, very patriarchal, very traditional. Most feminists wouldn't enjoy that passage. But that's the religious side of things. And as a sacrament, it's specifically and exclusively a man and a woman for the purpose of procreation in perpetuity. So that's got a lot to unpack there. By that definition, not many marriages that we have today, even between man and wife, qualify. Basically, anybody who's ever gotten divorced wouldn't qualify. Basically, anybody who hasn't had children or has chosen not to have kids wouldn't qualify. So really, the only people that qualify are a man and a woman who get married in a church and consummate the marriage and stay together forever and have kids. Is basically the qualifiers. So that's a lot of qualifiers on the religious side. Now, various religions have more and less of them. That's the Catholic view, and it's very, very dogmatic, very, very rigid. Some of the other Protestant faiths, kind of open that up a little bit and don't require as many of those facets. Now, I'm going to tell you what I believe. I believe that the government has no business dictating marriage at all. That's what I believe. I think that our legal system is extremely complicated already. I think one of the many things that overcomplicates it is family law, right? I'm personally somebody who's gone through a divorce and has had to see the consequences of the contract that I got involved in. Actually, it's not even supposed to be a contract. It's supposed to be a covenant. But the contract on the secular side is what I essentially signed up for without realizing it, and then ended up having to sign new contracts to mitigate that first contract after the marriage didn't work out. So it's very, very complicated, custody battles and alimony and this, that, and the other. I think that we could do away with a lot of that if we just maintained marriage as a religious institution only. As a secular institution, I think the government's got no business in it. As a religious institution, I think the government's got no business in it. I don't think there should be any laws prohibiting anybody from getting married. I don't think there should be any laws that, expressly require it or even give advantage to it, really. Because I do think that, now I'll give you the counterpoint. The counter-argument, before I go on, the counter-argument is that there have been studies to show that there is a definite non-zero advantage to a nuclear family household. That has produced it's more likely to lead to greater education, greater economic advantage in the future, better jobs, things like that. It's kind of a loose, tenuous correlation, but it's there. And I'll post some of my sources below. Now, as such, the counter-argument would be, if there's an advantage to it, should the government, basically encourage it? My argument is no, and this is why. I believe that despite any advantage, I think that it would effectively be endorsing what is otherwise a religious institution. And as such, it would be intrinsically discriminatory. So I think that there's a freedom issue at play. I don't think that the government should get involved in religious institutions, even if they happen to help, simply because I think that it mitigates the freedoms involved. Now, I would be interested to hear people's response to that. I'd definitely be interested. I know my brothers don't agree with me. I think that they very much believe in the typical traditional marriage, and they're both very, very Catholic, very apologetic Catholics. So they would probably have a very differing opinion of mine. But I'd love to hear what they have to say about this. But I believe that the government really doesn't belong in our business, especially with regards to this. I don't think that there should be any laws surrounding it. I don't think there should be anything that prohibits, two people, if they say they love each other, they want to get together. Now, I will say this. Gay marriage, insofar as it goes, isn't the same thing as religious marriage, right? It's not the same thing. I'm not sure why they would want to use the same word, but I guess if that's important to them, I don't really think that it matters much. I mean, does it really make a difference whether you use the word marriage or union or something else? I'm not sure. I'd be interested to hear from any homosexuals that watch if there's a psychological advantage to using the same word, or if it just feels better. I'm not sure if that's important. To me, I don't think it would make a difference. I just, if I'm with the mate that I care for, I don't think it would matter what I call it. I think that it probably matters in today's society or at the moment because there's legal advantages around it, right? Like, for example, you can't, make some powers of attorney would be an example. Like sometimes you can't get visitation in the hospital if there's a dire situation. Only the spouse can get access. So there may be some advantages there that are necessary in today's society. But if the law were out of it, if the government were out of it, I'm not sure if it would still matter. It might. But I don't think it's the same thing. Not that truly matters either, right? Like, I think as long as you're getting what you want out of it, I think that's what would make people happy. I think that there is a different fundamental relationship that is involved in marriage for the purpose of procreation than a relationship that's marriage just for the purpose of love. I think that they hold two different places, and not necessarily better or worse places, but just different ones. But let me know what you guys think. This is kind of a really controversial topic, and those are my thoughts on the matter. I typically am pretty libertarian for a lot of things. I don't like the government involved in my business. I just want, freedom. I just want to be able to, kind of do what I want to do, and then, as long as it doesn't hurt anybody else, I think it should be mostly, for the most part, legal. But let me know what you guys think below. Post your comments. Thank you so much. I'll catch you guys next time on Couch Talk.